Good afternoon, everybody. This is Cesar Delgado from Back Roads of Illinois, podcast on YouTube with Joe Kemp today.
Yeah.
The markets are up for today. Corn is rallying limit. The report is due to face with geopolitical since February. In the Black Sea, they will shipping on all of the grain. From Russia and Ukraine. Unfortunately, we see that the market is completely nuts. Unfortunately, we see that the market is completely nuts for this year. Yeah. Other news for midterm. It been really small percentage of the Republicans beat the Democrats, but in Georgia staking high. Both candidates for the Senate. Both candidates for the Senate is tied in Georgia.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Archiller Walker and Yank is tied at 39%. On December, we will see the runoff of both.
Mm. Mm. No. Yeah.
Meanwhile, the House is still being processed by decision to move to the Republicans.
Mm.
Meanwhile, the House is still being processed by decision to move to the Republicans beat the Democrats. We will see.
uh, uh, uh,
The following week is going to be Thanksgiving break from 2 weeks from today.
uh,
The turkey is ready, but the pay is still being considered a virus on this year. Most farm work out for the millions of turkey in the United States and France. For this virus. Finally, this year for turkey prices are currently up by inflation and the virus.
Hello, good afternoon.
Please be patient. I'm using a computer to help me communicate.
Absolutely. Glad to join you.
Good afternoon, Joe. Nice to meet you.
Thanks. Good afternoon to you as well, and pleased to meet you. Glad to have the opportunity to talk with you today.
I'm Cesar Delgado from Ottawa, Illinois. You're welcome to my podcast.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me again, and glad to hear about you from Ottawa. You certainly know some folks up there, and I'm down here in Bloomington, Illinois. Grew up not too far east of here. So yeah, glad to be with you.
How is the corn market for today?
It was a positive finish for corn this week after a bit of a rocky start, and we have been on a downtrend lately. That after recently touching just over $7 for nearby corn futures, they've since been down towards now 650. But we did have an up day on Friday to help, turn positive, turn attitudes a little bit more positive heading into the weekend. And a couple of I think motivations for a higher market, mostly that we had this dollar index so much sharply lower again today, and that raised optimism about export potential. And at the same time, you had higher crude oil prices, which really helped on the processing side. And our expectation for demand is still bullish based on what we're seeing in the basis being paid for ethanol processors and now for biodiesel producers, a big topic of conversation now. So a good close to the week overall.
How about the beans for today?
The beans had the best day of the grains, up more than 25 cents here across the curve, and reflecting primarily that processing storyline, I believe, where you have the crude oil rebounding by $3 a barrel at one point here to close the week. The bean oil futures continue to rally into new contract highs. And so you do have those crush margins at really rather firm levels, record in some cases levels. And so the draw for beans is still very much on. And that comes after this week's crop report, where we did have a higher yield submitted for soybean yield, yet the carryout did not rise by a whole lot and was still left at its tightest level since 2012. So that was something I think that leaned positive later on.
Just tell me about the cattle and hog.
Sure, it seemed like the higher corn really got into the livestock today, especially those feeder cattle futures. The January contract closed lower by more than $3 on the day. In that market, we have a recent bearish turn for speculative positioning. So those hedge funds or the managed money crowd that we track having turned net short again, the feeders, and exerting some extra pressure here. The live cattle down $1.55 to $1.77 here on Friday. Again, a reflection, I think, of the higher corn. You otherwise have recent strength still for the cattle complex as a whole because of what we know are still tight market ready numbers and really good underlying demand. We talk about heading into the holidays and wondering about what beef demand will be like. It seems as if it's going to remain robust all around because we are down a little bit from a year ago. Consumers not really any worse off in a big way and wanting to still eat beef. So that's been good along with exports too. So a little bit lower today. I'm be interested to see how we carry going forward.
Yeah, how about the Mississippi River?
Such a huge question about the Mississippi River. It's been all over the place in terms of a positive and a negative for the market. Lately, we've been relieved to see at least some moisture return these water levels in the southern stretch of the river back higher enough that we can get some barges continuing downriver, but they are still restricted in terms of what they can carry. And as of late, at least total grain volume's been down as much as maybe 45% of what it could be or has been in normal years. So it's a huge issue that we're still dealing with all around this drought. Hopeful that we'll get some moisture, but now looking at it being, in the form of some snow in the Northwest with this winter storm coming, and a turn into winter awfully quickly without a tank of all, pretty much at all for for soil moisture. So we'll keep an eye on it and hope that things can improve because it's the time of the year when we should really be stacking up export commitments out of the Gulf of Mexico. We'll see.
Joe, did you read my article from Farm Week?
I did see you were in Farm Week, and that was exciting for me because uh, I like to contribute to Farm Week myself and appreciate what the journalists there do every week for our Farm Bureau members. I know you're closely involved. I saw too you had a follow up with on Twitter with the game you recently attended. That was something that Farm Bureau shared. So I've definitely been seeing you in the news lately.
uh,
Just tell me about yourself.
Yeah. So I, as mentioned, live and work here in Bloomington, Illinois, and the company that I work for, Comstock, I've been with for a little over 2 years, but happy to work with farmers and mostly do brokerage work, but also analysis and commentary for the Illinois Farm Bureau, like I mentioned, in writing a weekly column. And that history I've had with Farm Bureau is something I'm awfully proud of and continue to enjoy. It gets me close to new people, meet folks like you. But personally, I like to be outdoors. I come from a small town, uh, close to a farm family, both on my side and my wife's side, who is also from my hometown in Paxton, Illinois, Ford County. So I do have a wife and now a young son, Jay, of 6 months, and that's my definite focus at the moment is life with Alyssa, my wife, and new son Jay, and my work here with farmers.
Cool. Did you grow up in farm?
I did not grow up on a farm, having lived in town, quote unquote, in the city of Paxton. But I had uncles, grandparents engaged with farming just about 10 miles away in Iroquois County, stretching into Ford County now, where my father-in-law farms. So I think that's part of what interested me is not necessarily growing up on a farm, but being close to it for most of my childhood, which is I think the reason why I didn't want to go very far away.
well,
How about the WASP report on Wednesday morning?
This latest report kind of came out as a dud from the sense that the USDA's estimates weren't too far off of what the trade guesses were leading in, and also in part because there were a lot of changes not made, sort of put off, if you will, or punted towards next month or maybe more particularly January. But we did see higher yield estimates. In part, that came on the back of Illinois having a raise of 5 bushels an acre on corn to a record 215. And that was surprising to me, to be honest. I knew we had a great crop and best ever in some areas, but it didn't seem like it was as consistent um, like we would need to make a record crop. But of course, technology and the way um, farmers are, it shouldn't come as a shock, right? That we're moving the needle here. Still, though, we compare that to our previous best ever in 2018, and it seemed hard to believe. And that was somewhat of a bearish outcome overall. for the market there on report day, but we got out of it pretty quickly because at the end of the day, the ending stocks numbers, like I mentioned, for soybeans at 220 million bushels, at corn under 1.2 billion bushels, were as tight as we've been since 2012, that last major drought. So I see it as surprising that we got those that we were able to achieve for the national averages, our fifth largest crop, corn and soybean yield wise ever. Yet the variability, we know about the struggle across the West and particularly in the Southwest. So it was a report that I think the market's glad to get in the rear view, and now we shift our focus towards not just how big these crops were, but how are we going to use them. So we'll keep an awfully close eye in future reports, mostly on demand from here.
Yeah, I heard about the market's as highest level since 2012.
Right. Yeah, there is a lot of comparison to 2012. Again, the big drought, and we're not far off in terms of the drought monitor and the expansion of the current drought that we're in compared to 2012. But now we've got prices testing, those old highs here, or they were this summer, and could again if, like we were talking about, this third year in a row of La Nina continues to put drought pressure on production, not just here, but also in South America. Of course, we're keeping an eye on.
Well,
There's always so much
I remember when I was
going
in
on.
my freshman year in high school.
It was, a trying time to think that it can be that hot and dry. Well, we had a taste of it in a worry that in a lot of places it was going to be a widespread repeat here in 2022, and unfortunately it was for many. I mean, states like Kansas and Oklahoma, Nebraska, uh, you know, on into the Dakotas, we're looking at some severe uh, influence from this last drought, and again, something that could carry into next year too. So important to look at those analogs and think about what was the environment back then, not only weather-wise, but also too, in other markets outside financials that we're watching really closely at the moment. Uh, Everything of that sort.
Yeah. Thanks for coming. Hey, Joe, you can post your podcast interview on your social media.
Thanks a lot for having me. I appreciated talking with you by email there, and now here on the podcast. I'll hope we can stay in touch and do it again in the future. And I appreciate the chance to link up on social media too. Your Backroads Illinois channel, I know, looks like it's worth a subscribe, and again, look forward to linking up.
You're welcome to my podcast anytime soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Take care, and we'll look forward to talking with you soon.
You're welcome. Have a fantastic weekend.
Thanks, Caesar. Thanks for having me again. Have a great weekend. Take care.
I'm Cesar Delgado from Back Roads of Illinois podcast. Please subscribe it